I should have seen it coming the night Marcus ordered a $300 bottle of Macallan at our quarterly earnings celebration. The Marcus I'd served with for 15 years, the same guy who once subsisted on MREs for 6 weeks straight in Kandahar, suddenly developing a taste for luxury whiskey. Red flag number one. But I was too busy congratulating myself on our success to notice the predatory gleam in his eyes as he raised his glass and called me the old man who made it all possible. Red flag number two appeared when Derek started suggesting we expand. Too quickly, pushing for contracts our team couldn't realistically handle. Derek, the most cautious tactician I've ever known, the guy who once spent 3 days planning a single convoy route, suddenly throwing operational security to the wind. But willful blindness is a powerful thing, especially when you're looking at men you've trusted with your life. So I ignored my instincts until it was far too late, until I was standing in an empty warehouse at 2 a.m., blood streaming down my face, staring at $4.2 million in stolen jewelry that had somehow found its way into my private safe. Until I heard sirens in the distance while my 2 closest friends, my brothers in arms, explained how perfectly my fingerprints were positioned on everything that mattered. I'm Major James Hargrove, retired now, obviously. And this is how I learned the hard way that brotherhood only lasts until first blood. After 22 years in Army Special Forces, civilian life felt like wearing someone else's clothes. Everything technically fit, but nothing sat right. I spent 6 months doing the retirement checklist, fishing trips, home renovations, a half-hearted attempt at golf. My wife Catherine watched me grow increasingly restless, pacing our suburban Atlanta home like a caged animal. "You need purpose, James," she finally said one night. "You're built for mission, not leisure." She was right. 2 weeks later, I was drawing up business plans for Trident Security Solutions. The concept was straightforward: high-end security services provided by elite military veterans. The kind of protection that required more than just a uniform and a flashlight. I needed partners. Men I could trust implicitly. That led me to Marcus Delaney and Derek Winters, my former team members, brothers forged in combat. Marcus had been my communications specialist, a tech wizard who could hack Soviet-era radios with a paperclip when needed. Quick-witted, charismatic, with a gambler's love for calculated risk. He'd left the Army 3 years before me, was working IT security for a bank, and hating every minute of corporate America. Derek was our team's logistics expert, the man who could source anything from anywhere. Need specialized ammunition in a remote mountain village? Derek would have it waiting. He'd transitioned to civilian life just a year after Marcus, running operations for a shipping company and complaining constantly about the inefficiency. When I called them with my proposition, they both said yes before I finished explaining. We met at my house, spread maps and business plans across my dining room table, and Trident Security Solutions officially came to life over beer and takeout pizza. "To the Major," Marcus had said, raising his bottle. "Leading us into battle 1. More time. To finally getting paid what we're worth," Derek added with a grin. We each invested our savings, $75,000 apiece, and divided responsibilities according to our strengths. I would handle client relations and overall strategy. Marcus would oversee technological infrastructure and cybersecurity offerings. Derek would manage operations and personnel. Equal partners. Equal risk, equal reward. The first year was a grind, 16-hour days, constant hustle, the kind of exhaustion that seeps into your bones. We started small: executive protection, security assessments for mid-sized businesses, specialized training for corporate security teams. Our military credentials opened doors, but our results kept them open. By year 2, we'd expanded to 32 employees, mostly veterans we'd carefully vetted. Our reputation grew, particularly after Marcus thwarted a sophisticated cyber attack on a client's financial systems. That success led to bigger clients, which meant bigger contracts and increasingly complex security challenges. Year 3 is when everything truly accelerated. We landed a contract with Meridian Global, a multinational corporation with extensive overseas operations. They needed comprehensive security, physical, digital, personal protection, and they were willing to pay premium rates for our expertise. The contract doubled our annual revenue overnight. That's when we moved from our cramped office into the gleaming headquarters I'd designed, a converted warehouse in Atlanta's trendy West Midtown neighborhood. 3 floors of state-of-the-art technology, training facilities, and operations centers. I'd personally overseen every detail of the renovation, creating a space that balanced security with sophisticated professionalism. The grand opening party was something to behold. Clients, employees, even a few carefully selected media representatives mingling among displays of our latest security technology. Catherine looked stunning that night, proudly introducing herself as the woman behind the major. At 52, she still turned heads, her dark hair now elegantly streaked with silver, her confidence only enhanced by the years we'd spent together. "You've built something remarkable," she whispered, squeezing my hand as we surveyed the crowd. "We've built it," I corrected her. "Couldn't have done it without you." "And them," she nodded toward Marcus and Derek, who were charming potential clients across the room. "The 3 musketeers," I smiled. "All for one and all that." It was around our 4th year when subtle changes began. Small decisions made without consulting me. Meetings I wasn't invited to. Projects that seemed to materialize fully formed, rather than developing through our usual collaborative process. "You're being paranoid," Catherine said when I mentioned it. "They're just taking initiative. Isn't that what you trained them to do?" She was right, of course. I'd always emphasized autonomous leadership. And truthfully, I was enjoying having more time for strategic thinking rather than day-to-day operations. So I pushed down the discomfort, ignored the occasional closed-door conversations that fell silent when I approached. The Kimball contract is what ultimately set everything in motion. Hampton Kimball, a tech billionaire with more enemies than friends, had approached us about securing his extensive collection of rare jewelry during its transportation to a museum exhibition. The collection, valued at over $50 million, included pieces once owned by European royalty and Hollywood legends. Moving it safely represented exactly the kind of high-stakes challenge Trident had been built to handle. We spent weeks planning every detail: transportation routes, security protocols, contingency plans. I personally vetted each team member who would participate in the operation. Marcus developed a proprietary tracking system for each piece. Derek arranged for specialized vehicles and equipment. The night before execution, we gathered in my office for final reviews. "To flawless execution," Marcus said, producing that ridiculously expensive bottle of Macallan. "Since when do you spend $300 on whiskey?" I asked, accepting the glass he offered. "We're about to pull off the biggest job in Trident history." He shrugged. "Seems worth celebrating." "Save the celebration for after we deliver," Derek cautioned, though he took the glass eagerly enough. We went through the plan one final time. 3 armored vehicles, rotating patterns, randomized routes. The jewelry itself would be distributed among specialized containers, each with redundant tracking and security measures. My team would lead, with Derek's following, and Marcus monitoring. "Everything from our operations center. Get some sleep," I told them as we finished. "Tomorrow we make history for Trident." The operation began precisely at 0700. I personally supervised the loading process at Kimball's estate, watching as each piece was logged, secured, and distributed according to our protocols. By 0730, we were on the road, moving smoothly toward the museum 30 miles away. Everything proceeded exactly as planned until the halfway point. That's when my earpiece crackled with Marcus's voice, tension evident even through the static. "James, we've got a situation. GPS showing Derek's vehicle has deviated from the route." "Derek, report," I demanded immediately. Silence. "Derek, acknowledge. What's your status?" More silence. "Marcus, can you get visual?" "Negative. Their camera feed has gone dark." I made an instant decision. Execute Contingency 3. Now. Contingency 3 meant my vehicle would continue on the primary route while the third vehicle diverted to a secure secondary location. Standard protocol for potential compromise. "Roger that," my driver confirmed, maintaining our course. For 10 excruciating minutes we continued toward the museum, my mind racing through scenarios, none of them good. Then Marcus's voice again, this time with unmistakable alarm. "James, we've got another problem. I've lost tracking on all devices in Derek's vehicle." Before I could respond, our vehicle suddenly swerved, throwing me against the door. "What the hell?" I barked. "Armed motorcycles approaching from the rear," my driver reported tersely. "Aggressive positioning." Through the bulletproof glass, I saw them. 3 motorcycles, riders in black tactical gear, moving to surround us. "Evasive action," I ordered. "Get us to fallback point Alpha." The driver nodded, executing a sharp turn that momentarily shook our pursuers. But they recovered quickly, one rider pulling alongside and gesturing with what was unmistakably a military-grade weapon. "Sir, they have anti-vehicle ordnance," my security lead warned. "If they fire, this armor won't hold." Another split-second decision. "Pull over, controlled stop. Alert Marcus, we're being intercepted." As our vehicle slowed, I reached for my sidearm. A Glock 19 I'd carried since my days in the field. The motorcycles surrounded us, riders maintaining tactical distance. "James, what's happening?" Marcus demanded through my earpiece. "Armed intercept, going to attempt negotiation." "Negative. Do." "Not engage. Police are en route." But I already knew we wouldn't survive a direct confrontation. 4 of us against at least 6 heavily armed attackers with who knew what kind of backup. Sometimes the best defense is a controlled surrender followed by a strategic countermove. "Hold. Positions." I told my team. "I'm going to talk to them." I stepped out slowly, hands visible, Glock conspicuously holstered. "I'm the principal here," I announced clearly. "Whatever you want, we can discuss it without casualties." The lead rider, dismounted, approaching cautiously. Black tactical gear, face completely covered by a tinted helmet. But something in the posture, the way they moved. The figure stopped 10 feet away. "Major Hargrove," a digitally distorted voice acknowledged. "You've been selected for early retirement." Then everything happened at once. A flashbang exploded behind me. Something hard struck the back of my head. The world tilted, darkened, disappeared. I regained consciousness gradually, awareness returning in fragments. Cold concrete beneath me. The taste of blood in my mouth. Distant voices arguing. "Taking too long. We need to move now." Still. "Out. Hit him harder than we planned." My training kicked in. "Keep still. Assess before acting." I was seated on a concrete floor, hands zip-tied behind my back around what felt like a metal pipe. Head throbbing viciously. The voices were familiar but distorted by my semi-conscious state. I cracked one eye open slightly. Industrial space. High ceilings. The Trident emergency fallback location. Our secure warehouse where we stored specialized equipment. And walking. Toward me, their backs turned as they argued, were Marcus and Derek, my brothers, my partners, my betrayers. I closed my eye before they turned, processing this revelation while maintaining the appearance of unconsciousness. Whatever was happening, showing my awareness too soon would be a tactical error. "Just wake him up," Derek was saying. "We don't have time for this. The police will be executing the warrant on his house soon." "We need him disoriented," Marcus countered. "If he's thinking clearly, he's dangerous." He's zip-tied to a structural beam. How dangerous can he be? This is James we're talking about. The man once strangled a Taliban commander with his bootlace while bleeding out from a bullet wound. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of pride at Marcus's assessment. Fine, Derek conceded. But we move in 15 minutes, with or without his confession. Confession? To what? I heard footsteps approaching, then a splash of ice-cold water hit my face. I sputtered realistically, blinking up at my former friends with calculated confusion. What's happening? I slurred, playing more disoriented than I actually was. Marcus crouched before me, his expression a mask of false concern. You're in trouble, James. Big trouble. The jewelry, Derek added from behind him. It's gone. I stared at them, genuinely confused now. What do you mean, gone? Stolen, Marcus clarified. During transport, the entire collection. Memory fragments. Clicked together. The deviation from the route, the motorcycle interception. Are you both okay? I asked automatically. The rest of the team? A flicker of something. Guilt? Regret? Crossed Marcus's face. Everyone's fine. No casualties. Except your career, Derek added coldly. And possibly your freedom. Marcus shot him a look before turning back to me. Evidence points to an inside job, James. Very sophisticated. The implication hung heavy in the air. You think I had something to do with this? Indignation gave my voice strength. We know you did, Derek stated flatly. Your fingerprints are all over this operation, literally. The specialized containers? Marcus elaborated. They were accessed using your biometric signature. That's impossible, I said. I never. The money transfers to offshore accounts? Derek continued, initiated from your private terminal. What money? What accounts? My confusion was genuine. Marcus pulled out his phone, showing me banking records I'd never seen before, transactions bearing my digital signature, moving millions through a complex web of accounts. This is insane, I growled. I'm being framed, obviously. By whom? Derek challenged. You personally vetted every person involved in this operation. Maybe by the two people I didn't properly vet, I suggested coldly, looking between them. My so-called brothers. Marcus sighed heavily. We were afraid you'd react this way. Paranoia, deflection, classic signs of guilt. Or maybe classic signs of someone who's been betrayed by his closest friends. Derek stepped forward menacingly. Always the righteous commander, aren't you? Even when caught red-handed. I studied them both, these men I'd trusted with everything. Why? I asked simply. What could possibly be worth this? For a moment neither answered. Then Marcus stood, creating distance between us. Necessity, he said finally. Trident has outgrown you, James. Your leadership style, your risk aversion, your outdated thinking. They're holding us back. The Achilles contract, Derek added. That was the final straw. Achilles, a private military contractor with a reputation for operating in legal gray areas. They'd approached us about a partnership 2 months ago. I'd rejected their advances immediately, wanting nothing to do with their questionable operations. Marcus and Derek had disagreed vehemently. So this is a coup, I said, understanding dawning. Get rid of the old man. Take control of the company. It's evolution, Marcus corrected. Natural selection. The future belongs to those who can adapt. And stealing $50 million in jewelry, that's just a bonus? Insurance, Derek said. Against your inevitable retaliation, I laughed bitterly. So what now? You kill me? Make it look like I committed suicide out of guilt? Marcus actually looked offended. Jesus, James, we're not murderers. We served together. Then what's your endgame? Here? Simple, Derek explained. The evidence already points to you as the mastermind. We've been carefully building the paper trail for months. Your fingerprints, your access codes, your banking information. Meanwhile, Marcus continued, we've documented our growing concerns about your behavior, suspicious meetings, unusual expenditures, secretive communications. And now, Derek finished, the coup de grace, the stolen jewelry hidden in your private safe, the one only you have access to. He walked to the far wall, entering a code into a keypad I recognized as the one protecting my personal storage area. The heavy door swung open, revealing row upon row of velvet boxes. Even from across the room, I could see the glitter of diamonds, the rich color of emeralds. That's not possible, I whispered. Very possible, Marcus assured me, especially when you know all the override codes to a security system you helped design. The full scope of their betrayal hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about control of Trident. This was character assassination. They weren't just stealing my company, they were destroying everything I'd built, everything I stood for. The police have already been anonymously informed, Derek said, checking his watch. They'll be here within the hour with a search warrant. So that's it? I asked. You frame me, I go to prison, you take over Trident and partner with Achilles. More or less, Marcus confirmed, though we'd prefer a confession. Makes everything cleaner, less chance of awkward questions. Hence these, Derek added, producing a digital recorder and a typed document. Your full admission of guilt and your resignation transferring your shares to the remaining partners. Sign it, and we might be able to help with a plea deal. I stared at the document, at the recorder, at these men who'd fought beside me, who'd saved my life more than once. Men I would have died for without hesitation. You know what the worst part is? I said quietly. I would have given you the company if you'd asked. If you'd made a case for why you could lead it better than me, I would have listened. A flicker of genuine emotion crossed Marcus's face. It was never just about the company, James. What then? It was about proving we could. Derek answered bluntly. That we're better, smarter, more suited to this world than you. And there it was. Not just betrayal for profit, but for ego, to prove they could outsmart the legendary Major Hargrove. I allowed my shoulders to slump, my head to bow. You've made your point, I said wearily. Give me the pen. Derek approached cautiously, pen and paper extended. Marcus hung back, watchful, but visibly relieved. The moment Derek was within range, I exploded into action. 22 years of Special Forces training don't disappear just because you're retired. I drove my forehead into his face with savage force, feeling cartilage crunch beneath the impact. As he stumbled backward, I twisted to catch the falling, pen with my bound hands. Marcus reacted quickly, lunging forward but not quickly enough. I'd already worked the pen between my fingers, pressing the metal clip against the zip tie's locking mechanism. A trick I'd learned in my second year of service and had practiced religiously ever since. The plastic gave way just as Marcus reached me. I rolled sideways, sweeping his legs from under him with a practiced move. He crashed down hard, head striking the concrete with an impact that momentarily stunned him. Derek was already recovering, blood streaming from his shattered nose. He reached for a weapon at his waistband, but I was on him before his hand found purchase. 2 sharp strikes to the throat, another to the temple, and he collapsed. Marcus had regained his feet, circling warily. Unlike Derek, he'd always been a skilled hand-to-hand fighter. Don't make this worse, James, he warned, hands raised defensively. Worse than betraying 20 years of brotherhood, I countered, matching his stance. Worse than trying to destroy my life. We engaged in a brief, vicious exchange of blows. Despite the throbbing in my head, years of training took over. Muscle memory, practiced violence. I blocked his primary attacks while absorbing the secondary ones, waiting for the opening I knew would come. It appeared when he overextended slightly on a right cross. I slipped inside his guard, driving a knife hand strike to his throat, followed by a devastating blow to his solar plexus. As he doubled over, gasping, I drove my knee into his face. With both men temporarily incapacitated, I moved quickly. Using their own zip ties, I secured them to the same pipe that had held me moments before. Then I searched them methodically, collecting phones, weapons, and keys. Derek regained consciousness first, eyes widening as he realized our reversed positions. "You've lost," he wheezed through his broken nose. "Evidence is already in place. Police are on their way." "Maybe," I acknowledged, picking up the recorder they'd intended for my confession. "But now I have time to find the truth." Marcus stirred, blood trickling from his split lip. "There's nothing to find," he muttered. "It's your word against a mountain of evidence." I smiled grimly. "You forgot who you're dealing with." I didn't lead our team because I was the strongest or the fastest. I led because I was always 3 steps ahead. Turning on the recorder, I held it between them. "Now, let's try this confession idea again, but with the actual perpetrators." The next 48 hours were a blur of strategic moves and counter-moves. I'd learned long ago that the best defense is a devastating offense. My first call was to Catherine, using Marcus's phone to avoid any traces on my own devices. "They've betrayed me," I told her succinctly. "Framed me for the Kimball theft. Police, probably already at our house." To her eternal credit, my wife didn't waste time with disbelief or panic. "What do you need?" "Access to the contingency fund, the documentation in safety deposit box 12, and my old friend Hernandez at the FBI." "Consider it done," she said without hesitation. "Where will you be?" "Better you don't know yet. I'll contact you through the emergency protocol." My next step was securing the evidence. Using Derek's credentials, I accessed Trident's servers and began methodically tracking the digital breadcrumbs they'd created. They'd been thorough, but also arrogant. They hadn't expected me to have time to investigate, so they'd cut corners in their haste. I found traces of the duplicate biometric profile they'd created using my fingerprints and access codes. Located the backdoor Marcus had installed in our security system. Discovered the elaborate money transfers they'd engineered to implicate me. Most importantly, I recovered the security footage they thought they'd erased, showing them accessing my safe, planting the jewelry, manipulating them. Digital records. I compiled everything onto an encrypted drive, then turned to my captives. They'd been watching me work, their expressions evolving from confidence to concern to outright fear, as they realized I was systematically dismantling their frame-up. "Last chance," I told them. "A full confession might earn you some leniency." Derek remained defiant, but Marcus had always been the pragmatist. "What's your offer?" he asked, ignoring Derek's look of betrayal. "You tell me everything. Every detail of your plan, every person involved, every contingency you established. In return, I focused the investigation on recovering the stolen property, rather than prosecuting the thieves." "You'd let us walk?" Derek asked incredulously. "No," I clarified. "You'll lose everything, your positions, your reputations, probably your freedom for a time. But you won't spend the next 20 years in federal prison for grand theft, conspiracy, and fraud." Marcus and Derek exchanged looks, a silent communication born of years working together. "Start recording," Marcus finally said. Their confession was comprehensive. The plan had been developing for over a year, starting when they realized Trident's growth potential exceeded their initial expectations. They'd created an elaborate scheme to take control, using the Kimball contract as both opportunity and cover. The jewelry was to be their insurance policy, leverage to keep me from retaliating once I was removed from the company. They'd intended to frame me as the mastermind, force my resignation, then discover discrepancies that would allow them to recover the collection and emerge as heroes. What they hadn't counted on was my response, They'd expected me to crumble under the evidence, to accept defeat rather than fight against such overwhelming odds. "You forgot who trained you," I told them when they finished. "Never assume your opponent is beaten until you've confirmed the kill." With their confession secured, I made my final preparations. Using burner phones and encrypted messages, I coordinated with Catherine and my FBI contact. Then, leaving Marcus and Derek secured but unharmed, I slipped away into the night. 3 days later, the truth exploded across Atlanta's news outlets. Security firm founders arrested in elaborate jewelry heist. The story played out exactly as I'd orchestrated. FBI agents, acting on an anonymous tip, had discovered the stolen Kimball collection in a Trident warehouse, along with evidence implicating Marcus Delaney and Derek Winters. Their subsequent investigation revealed the elaborate frame-up attempt against Major James Hargrove, the company's founder. I watched the coverage from a hotel room across town, Catherine beside me. She'd handled everything brilliantly, providing authorities with the evidence I'd compiled while maintaining plausible deniability about my whereabouts during the critical investigation period. "What happens to Trident now?" she asked as we watched. Footage of Marcus and Derek being led away in handcuffs. "It survives," I said simply. "Stronger than before." And it did. After a carefully managed period of cooperation with authorities, I returned to Trident as its sole owner. The company's reputation actually improved following the incident. Our security protocols had been so robust that it took 2 inside operators at the highest level to circumvent them, and even then, they'd ultimately failed. We lost some clients, certainly, but gained others who appreciated the transparency with which we handled the crisis. Within 6 months, we'd stabilized. Within a year, we were growing again. As for Marcus and Derek, their plea deals, negotiated using the leverage of my recording, resulted in 5-year sentences. Substantially less than they deserved, but sufficient for justice while ensuring the complete recovery of the Kimball collection. I visited them once, 3 months into their incarceration. Not out of forgiveness or reconciliation, but to answer the one question that still haunted me. "Why?" I asked them from across the prison visitors' table. "We built something remarkable together. Something honorable." Marcus couldn't meet my eyes. Derek stared defiantly. "You were holding us back," Derek finally said. "Playing by outdated rules in a world that rewards the bold. And that justified betraying someone who would have died for you. We were never going to be more than your lieutenants," Marcus added quietly, "always in the shadow of the legendary Major Hargrove." I studied them, these broken remnants of men I'd once trusted implicitly. "You know what your fundamental mistake was? You thought brotherhood was about blind loyalty. It's not. It's about accountability, about holding each other to a higher standard." "Spare us the lecture," Derek sneered. "No lecture," I replied, standing to leave. "Just an observation. You wanted to prove you were better than me. Instead, you proved exactly why you never will be." As I walked away, Marcus called after me. "What now, James? Back to building your empire?" I turned back briefly. "I already did that. Now I'm building a legacy, one that would have included you both if you'd had the courage to earn it rather than steal it." That was 3 years ago. Trident Security Solutions has since doubled in size, with operations across the country, and an impeccable reputation for integrity. The Kimball incident is now used as a case study in our training, a reminder that security threats often come from where you least expect them. Catherine and I still laugh about how it all played out, how their attempt to destroy me ended up eliminating my only real competition, how their betrayal ultimately made Trident stronger, more resilient. "They never understood you," she often says. "They saw the tactician but missed the strategist." She's right, of course. Marcus and Derek were excellent soldiers, But they never grasped the most fundamental lesson I learned in 22 years of combat. True strength isn't about overpowering your enemies. It's about transforming adversity into advantage. About being the kind of leader, the kind of man, who can't be broken, only tempered. Brotherhood, real brotherhood, doesn't end at first blood. It transcends betrayal, survives failure, emerges stronger from adversity. The brotherhood I built at Trident now, with men and women who joined knowing our full history, is forged in truth rather than blind loyalty. And that, I've discovered, is a bond that cannot be broken. Not by betrayal, not by adversity, not even by the human tendency toward greed and selfishness. Because true brotherhood isn't about never falling. It's about who's still standing when the dust settles. I am Major James Hargrove. I've been betrayed by my closest friends, framed for crimes I didn't commit, and very nearly destroyed by men I once called brothers. And I'm still standing.